My name is Harley, and this is a demonstration of my trail tracker application. The purpose of my trail tracker application is to record details and locations of hikes and trails that a user may want to share with other users, and record images, details about their hike, and share maps and locations of those trails and those hikes. So here is our trail tracker. First thing we do is, if you're a new user, you can sign up here. So we'll go to the sign up page, pick a username, and I'll leave that blank just to show validation. As you can see, there's a little bit of shifting in the formatting, but it does require the presence of all four fields, along with a matching password. So if we add the matching password, now it's asking for an email address. I did notice that TurboLinks sometimes interferes with pressing buttons. So there we go. Sign up. I have actually used this email address for another test user. So we will try this. That's the TurboLinks issue. So that brings us to the introduction page. Introduction page will have a description of the application and how to use it for the user. It brings up a menu along the top, and we have buttons, navigation buttons along the bottom. I'm just going to log out for a minute to demonstrate the login. So I think we were user 1234. I think the password, that was our password. There we go, we're logged in. As you can see, if we log out, we can't do much. That's something I've got to check out. Again, we just get redirected to the login page. Except for the gallery, I will have to correct that. So, let's log back in again. As you saw on the login screen, we also had the OmniAuth option. I'm not going to use that right now because there has been some added requirements to use OmniAuth. The requirement of a link to a privacy policy on a deployed application. So it doesn't work for any Facebook profiles that don't belong specifically to the registered developer. And there's been security issues with OmniAuth over the past month that have not been resolved yet. So back to the introductory page. This again just gives an introduction of how to use the app, or it will in the future. If we go to a profile, you can see the username for the logged in user. you can see the email address. Here we can add a profile picture. Because I plan to deploy this as a free app, I do not store images in the database to preserve memory, so we would use something like any of the free photo sites to store your image, and then use a direct link. So I'm gonna Google profile pic. Guess we should say DuckDuckGo because I don't use Google as much as I can. For example, we'll take this image, we'll make this our profile picture. Add that. We will demonstrate the validation for the date. We go here, let's say the 21st month of the 44th day of 2019. Gonna leave the description blank. We'll allow this to be visible to other users, and we'll save the image. There's the turbo links again. As you can see, our date validation is working correctly. So we'll go back in and put today's date. What's today's date? It is the 27th. Now we'll add my selfie description. There we go. Now we have a profile picture, which we can also update. Or we can even delete. And we go back to the default picture. When we do that, the profile picture returns to the default image. We'll go back again, leave that there. Pick any of these dates. There we go. Now if we go back to my profile, there is your profile image. If we view all of the hikes for this user, you'll see that there are no current listed hikes, but it does have a spot for recent hikes for other users that have been made public. Nothing in the private gallery yet, but these are the public gallery images. So let's go and add a trail. Create a trail. These are the existing trails. Create a new trail. Name, I don't know. Let's see. That's our Pomodoro timer. Let's say it's Santa Rosa, actually. Santa Rosa Trail. Start point, blah, blah, blah. This later will include GPS coordinates, longitude and latitude once the Google Maps functionality is added. We'll say, actually, say 12 miles. A difficulty rating, we'll give it a difficulty rating of 12 and see what happens. Terrain, say flat and rocky. description, blah, blah, blah. Save trail. Well, that's interesting. As you can see, difficulty reading is not supposed to be anything above 5, so that validation did not function correctly. Again, this is where the Google Maps coordinates will be displayed. Let's go back to edit this trail. Give it a 3. Save again. As you can see, edit works just fine. We can delete this trail. When you delete this trail, it also deletes all the images, and it will not delete if there are associated hikes. So if another user has hikes saved to this trail and you try to delete it, it won't allow you to. Well, that's interesting. And that is where it's checking for the associated hikes. It should not be handling them if none exist. So that's another interesting issue here. Let's go back to trails. Center is a trail. Okay. So that's not working. Well, let's record a hike on this trail and see how that goes. Say it's on the Santa Rosa Trail. Allow other users to view it. Add some comments. Save the hike. Again, we added the incorrect date validation to see incorrect date to test the validation, which worked. Do you want this to be visible to other users? Oh, that is not the right trail. Okay, so our date validation is working correctly. And now we have a hike. If you go to view all my hikes, there is the one hike listed for this user. I can return to the trails index. You can see that that trail is still there. Go to my hikes again. And let's add an image to this hike. Again, as with the profile pictures, there is no image storage, so let's assume that we've already uploaded the image to our third-party site. Oops, sorry. Hike image. Oh, I like that one. That's a good one. So we'll take that. We'll say that's an image of our hike, flat and rocky. That sounds right to me. Go here. In the future, we're going to make this visible to other users. It's going to be a public image. Now we're going to save it. And the image has been saved, as you can see. You can update the image just as you could with the profile picture. You can also delete the image. There you go. Let's go back and add it back in again so we can view it in our gallery. Come on, TurboLinks. There we go. Alright, so we go to my gallery, and there's our first image. If we look at the public gallery, now it's also added. I'll click on image details, we have the date, the trail description, and the user that posted the image. So that's about it for functionality. It's pretty straightforward. You can look at any trails and use the appropriate navigation buttons. And when you're looking at each trail, it also displays any public images for that specific trail. And the own users gallery will show all images related to that specific user that's been logged in, and any public images as well. So that's about it. I'll log out. Now we're logged out. Can't log back in without valid login. OmniAuth. Again, I have a different profile open right now, so it is not the profile that is registered as the developer for this developer profile for this application. So it does block the sign in, and that's that. But as you can see, it does bring up Facebook OmniAuth login, and that's it. Welcome back. This is a continuation of my Trail Tracker demonstration. I decided rather than re-record the original demo, I would go over some of the bugs that I had originally detected in the first demonstration, and what I had done to correct some of these bugs. So the first problem that I came across when I was doing my original demo was that the app was not checking to see if the user was logged in before loading the gallery pages. Now that was creating an issue because the gallery pages use an image helper method called collect user images that queries the database for the current user.name to search the database for the user's images to display them in the gallery, and because of that it was causing a no method error and crashing the program. So you can see now, if we go to my gallery, okay, sorry, let me make sure we are actually logged out. If we go to my gallery, go to any other page here, they are just redirecting us to the login page as they should. The only page that the user should be able to access without logging in is the home page, which is just kind of a quick background on what the app is, but if you click on anything else, you'll be redirected here. So that's working correctly now. I'm going to log back in with the same user. Okay. Come on. My keyword's being a bit silly. All right. So here we are. Now we're logged in. The second issue that I came across was that when we were using the new edit trail form, so when we came to the trail form and created a new trail, there was a validation issue with the difficulty rating. Now the difficulty rating is a mandatory field that has that validation that checks to make sure that this number is between 1 and 5. We also need to include a name, any name really. A start point and a difficulty rating. Now, previously it was accepting a 2-digit difficulty rating, and it should not be doing that now. There we go. Our validation is working correctly. And I corrected this by adding a backslash, oh, I guess it's / a Z character. That is the regex for end of string, and that was added to the form data validation on the trail model. So that corrected that error. So you'll see now, if you try to put in anything other than what it's asking for, it doesn't work. There we go. The other issue that I had noticed here after I added the end of string validation was that it was not displaying the validation errors on the page either, and that also had to be corrected. For some reason that particular validation was not displaying an error. So when I went to debug that issue, what I found was I had a missing attribute following my f.label form helper. So I had to add the difficulty rating in as a reference to my label for the validation error to be detected. So that is now working correctly as well. Problem number 4, bug number 4 that I came across was when I was deleting a trail, instead of checking for associated hikes before deleting it, the program was throwing an error and stating active record statement invalid, no such column as hikes.hikesID, and then was crashing the program. So because these trails are accessible to more than one user, once a trail is in the system, other users can record hikes on the same trail. So because of this functionality, I created methods to check for associated hikes. Pardon me. To check for associated hikes by other users. So if another user has saved a hike to this trail, and another user comes along and tries to delete it, it will not delete the trail. And that is because then the user's hike has no trail to reference. So causes all kinds of issues. Now, if there are no associated hikes to this trail, it is possible for a user to delete it. So since this was just created and it has no associations, it should delete without error. And you will get the confirmation prompt. That's all working correctly. There we go. Now if we look at, say, one of these trails, Barton Creek Skyway, look at that one. And we'll go in and try and delete this trail. Are you sure you want to delete this trail? The correct error comes up, and that's stating trails with associated hikes cannot be deleted. So that is working correctly now too. And in order to debug that, my solution was that I discovered in the Trails controller helper in the handle associated method, instead of checking for an associated hike with a matching trail ID, it was querying the database for hikes.hikes_ID. To correct this, I corrected hike hike underscore ID to hike dot trail underscore ID. And the truck associated helper method was able to correctly execute the database query for hikes associated with the trail that was about to be deleted. And then it was able to return whether or not the delete process was going to continue. So as you can see, that's all working correctly now. One of the other issues that I came across was that when I was creating anything with a date, so for example, let's go to the hikes index, and we're going to record a new hike, that when I was adding dates, there was kind of a funky bug with the date index, so it was allowing me to do 5-digit years, which I have corrected, and now it will not accept dates that are not in the correct format. As you can see, unless it's entered in this stated format, it won't save to the database. So there we go. And the solution to that was an easy regex fix. It was the same one that I used with the rating, the difficulty rating 1 to 5. I just added an end of string regex to the date validation in the models, in any model that had a date validation. So that was the / is the one of the final issues I ran into was I noticed that the validation error messages were popping up on inappropriate pages and page loads. For example, if you entered an invalid username, once you logged in, for some reason the message was showing up after a successful login on a totally irrelevant page. So say you were looking at the trail index, it was popping up there, and the solution that I found to that was I changed all references of Flash for Flash messages to flash.now, and that prevented the Flash messages from appearing at the wrong time and on the wrong pages. So that's it. Everything's working correctly. Can view recent hikes, image details, still works as expected. Profile pic. There we go. So that's it. Thank you for watching my demonstration.